Former Enforcement Director Sanjay Mishra has been appointed by the Union government as a full-time member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Now, Mishra, who's served as the Enforcement Director Chief till September 15th, 2023, after the Supreme Court curtailed his extended tenure following petitions filed against multiple extensions granted to him by the government. Now, what are the questions which are being asked today? Has Sanjay Mishra been rewarded for the manner in which he targeted the opposition leaders? Is this an open admission, or rather an evidence of the fact how Modi government is using the ED chiefs to as a political weapon against the opposition? Joining me now is author, political commentator Sanjay Jha joins us this evening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. And it's wonderful to have you on a program. And this story, which is breaking, that Sanjay Mishra has been appointed as a full-time member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister's office. How would you really see this development politically?
Well, Neelu, first and foremost, I think what I like about Sanjay Mishra is his name. And to that extent, I believe that anyone who is called Sanjay, I should normally have an affinity for that person. But jokes aside, I feel that one thing is pretty apparent, that Mr. Modi is sending out a message to the people of this country that there will always be those who will be first among equals. And that Mr. Sanjay Mishra is a blue-eyed boy of the Modi government is pretty apparent. You'll remember that when the Supreme Court intervened on the extensions that he was getting in terms of his appointment as the director of the CBI, you are aware that the government actually brought in an ordinance. I mean, these were extraordinary developments, right? There's a reason why the tenure was capped, because you don't want a vested interest, or you don't want a certain organized clique to emerge within a very important organization to take on corruption and money laundering. And it's meant to be an independent, autonomous body. But here you had a political dispensation that was blatantly sending out a message that amongst all the officers in this country, they had this remarkable faith in one man. Now, I haven't done the appraisal of Mr. Mishra, so I have no idea in terms of what his real achievements or accomplishments are. But what is there in the public domain is very disconcerting. And the very fact that Mr. Modi's government actually brought in a bill in Parliament to carry on by giving that extraordinary 5-year period under conditional circumstances to the ED and CBI head, that sent you a message that he was going to be the first among equals. And that's exactly what you're seeing playing out right now.
Sanjay, do you think that today the message which has gone out to the other ED officers, no matter how many times they've been lambasted by the court, that what they are doing is not right, they are breaching their powers, they are breaching their limits, but by the appointment of Sanjay Mishra to the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, what do you think the message has gone down with the other ED officials? Will they improve their conduct? Will they do some introspection? Or now is this a reason enough for them to treat this as an incentive, that the more you harass and target and trouble the opposition leaders on the directions of the central government, the bigger rewards you might get?
Well, I can tell you for a fact that whatever this PM Economic Advisory Council does, it's been a mammoth failure. I don't know who are the entire list of distinguished gentlemen in that office, but the fact is, if you look at India's GDP, unemployment, the stress in the rural economy, the wipeout of the MSME sector, basically you look at the failure of manufacturing. Overall, India is stagnating as an economy. And I think post the US tariff and the entire global uncertainty, there is no denying that the structural slowdown that we talked about is going to be more and more deeply entrenched, leading to a prolonged period of what I would call as an economic, not just uncertainty, but a certain bearishness. So the Economic Advisory Council definitely needs a new kind of thinking. Will Mr. Sanjay Kumar Mishra, who has been mostly harassing opposing leaders through all kinds of money laundering cases, does he have the silver bullet or the magic wand to create a transformation of India's economy? That time will tell.
But he has rather been more politically involved in the state of affairs. And I was just looking at the high profile cases which he has handled. The Enforcement Directorate launched a probe against Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Vadra, and then against Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren, former Home Minister of Maharashtra Anil Deshmukh, former J&K Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti, National Conference leader Farooq Abdullah and Omar Abdullah. Then during his tenure, ED got approval for the extradition of fugitives such as Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and arms dealer Sanjay Bhandari. So the list is very, very long. Now, whoever the new ED chief is, do you think that because of the Supreme Court curtailing the extensions of Sanjay Mishra, would he introspect, or will he continue in a similar fashion as what Sanjay Mishra conducted himself?
Well, Neelu, you look at some hard data. They had 193 cases against politicians, and they got a 1% conviction rate, if I'm not mistaken. You remember that famous Indian Express investigation that told you that 95% of the cases during that period of 4 years were against opposition leaders. And clearly, that's how that entire washing machine story became a reality, right? So, did the ED and the CBI become instruments of political vendetta or vindictiveness? Absolutely. You don't have to be a genius, or you don't have to read a new investigative book to read that. It's pretty much clear as daylight. Now, if institutions of democracy, which are meant to actually curb money laundering and corruption, become levers in the hands of political warlords, then a democracy is under serious danger. And that's exactly what has happened. So, when the opposition talks about this whole BJP washing machine and the entire abuse of power by the BJP, which has been flagrant, you've got to hand it to Mr. Modi's government. They're like, we don't care a damn. Largely, they control the mainstream media, right? So the large, big media is under the influence of this government. So if there is an criticism of this government, they will find a way to not talk about it at all, or they will give it a fleeting mention. And I think as a result, the ordinary persons of India are not aware of what is going on. I'll give you an example. I have been on a lot of shows in the last week. I have not attended a single of them which has talked about this corruption against the Delhi High Court judge, that frankly speaking should be the screaming headline all over the country. It tells you openly that this is an alleged case of a serious corruption charge against a senior judge. So, the corruption in India's institutions is now, Neelu, for all to see who have cared to see it. It's not just ED or the CBI or an income tax or even questions of the NIA, where you remember the famous Rohini Salyan case, where there was an attempt to try and sabotage a free investigation on the Maligaon case, for example. And you look at Election Commission, which has been totally emasculated. I mean, the Election Commission is a puppet in the hands of this government. So what you're seeing right now in Mr. Mishra's elevation to this job is that many of these bureaucrats, and Mr. Modi is known to run this country with bureaucrats. Either he has no trust on his political colleagues, or he thinks that they don't have the requisite talent or the skill to run the country. So even when there are ministers apparently in government, it is the bureaucrats who call the shot. I mean, that is the general perception of those who know this government well. And that, in fact, was the model that Mr. Modi even followed in Gujarat. So the elevation of Mr. Mishra to the PM Advisory Council, good luck, because India's economy could do with some kind of a transformative vitamins or a booster shot. If Mr. Mishra has some great Eureka, I think the country will be more than delighted. But bottom line is this, that the ED was a tool of harassment. And somebody needs to explain this to the people of this country, that when your conviction rate was hardly, there's a Supreme Court, in fact, had to say that what are you doing? You remember that the liquor scam, they even talked about a very brutal, illegal interrogation of people. I remember Sanjay Raut in Maharashtra, where I live, in his case of his arrest and subsequent bail. I mean, the government, I think the court actually said that there was no case against him. So, you're witnessing a complete uh, tragic, I would say, collapse of governance and independence of institutions. And don't forget that 71% of most of these cases that came against politicians came in the case of the last 5 years. And principally during the time when Mr. Mishra was the head of ED. So I have only one question to ask of Mr. Modi's government, that don't they have more talented people? I think ED must be having very bright people in it, right? Bureaucrats who understand revenue and finance and taxation and various ways and means by which all kinds of financial frauds can happen, for which you need both analytical as well as regulatory understanding. And I think it's a little shocking that you have a situation today where an officer under whose watch the ED had the perception, and Mr. Mishra is free to deny it, but where the ED's perception has been that it has become the watchdog of the government, to only become a hound and literally bully, intimidate, threaten, and jail and arrest anybody from the opposition who the government finds inconvenient. The fact that he's got a sinecure and today he's going to be in a pretty high profile position is a manifestation of the way this government thinks, this government works. And as you rightly mentioned at the beginning, the government will reward those who they believe have fulfilled their larger political agenda.